don't want to pretend like I understand what's going on. Yes, at least right now I don't, but the stupidest thing is when people like I always, okay, I'm gonna say it like this. When I was a kid, I always thought that everyone older understood what was going on because they talked very confidently, as if they understood what was going on. But now that I got older, I realized even if I would break down every single word of what they were saying, it still wouldn't make sense. But they were just saying some big words like the metaphysical state of the something, and that is why I always thought that they knew what they were talking about and knew what was going on. But now that I have grown older, it seems that nobody truly understands what is going on, and everyone is just pretending to understand, because what else is there to do? Because you can't, or many people don't want to take on this burden of realizing that they don't understand anything, and when that happens, it's like it seems like the world doesn't make any sense. This is what I've been kind of thinking about recently. Does everything make sense or does nothing make sense? What does this even mean to make sense? And kind of what I've came to is that don't repeat in your mind that nothing makes sense. This life doesn't make any sense, because it's not really the truth. And what you're basically saying is that you don't understand what is going on, and that is normal. And because we can't understand why we are here, or let's say what is the origins of the universe. A lot of people try to figure it out, but it's not for us to figure out, because it's not if you look at this whole thing, why is that something that, okay, I understand why it pops into your mind, but it's not something that is meant to be figured out just by the design of life, or just by how you experience everything. Or who knows, maybe it is, but I'm just saying that I don't personally understand what's going on, and I haven't met anyone that understands, because they can't explain it to me. If you truly understood, then you could explain how that works. So to me, if I think about it in this way of making sense, what things make sense to me, then it would seem that everything makes sense, because I understand everything, why everything is happening. For example, why do people act the way they do? I already explained this in a previous video, but you basically don't have any free will, and you're just acting on behalf of your you're acting based on the most logical thing for your body to act or behave like, and your choices are just knee-jerk reactions. If you're going to the doctor and the doctor hits your knee and your knee moves, you didn't think to do that, and that just happened. But if your knee doesn't move, then it means that you're sick or there's something wrong with you. So I guess that in that way everything makes sense. Everyone is doing what they are supposed to be doing based on their what makes sense. But I guess there's some people that are sick and they go against their own body. If you hit your leg and it doesn't go up, then there's something wrong with you, and that was originally something wrong with you. Am I just blabbering, or does that make sense? I told you I don't understand this, so I'm not good at explaining it either, but to me everything makes everything, like there's nothing that is confusing me really, at least in that, like, why things happen. They just happen because just the way they're meant to be. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, maybe nothing actually makes sense. Okay, this is what I was saying. Like, does anyone actually understand what's going on? Like, is there some person who actually has figured all this out, or are we all just pretending to know like what's going on? Because I personally have no clue like what the hell is happening here. At least like with technology and blah blah blah. Like, let's say with artificial intelligence and what's gonna happen with that. Like, even like, is the internet that I use made by like some AI bots? Possibly. Like those kind of things. I'm just like, with it growing, like the advancement of technology, I'm just kind of like, I don't understand what's happening with that, because it moves so fast. And even things like why things happen, like why the leaves grow on the trees and why this grass grows, it's just I don't understand it. It's like overload of information, because if I think about everything, like my skin and clothing, the grass, it doesn't make, like, I don't understand what is going on. Same with it's like with philosophy, metaphysics, and blah blah blah. People say they understand it, but does anyone actually understand it? Or are we just like all pretending to like that this makes sense? Because if I look at life like with an unfiltered lens, and I just look at like this moment, I can say that everything makes sense because my senses are experiencing this moment, seeing and hearing and smelling everything. But when I start to think about abstract things, it starts to like go to that, like, that I don't understand anything that's going on. So I guess like those abstract things are something that aren't meant to be understood, perhaps. Because to me right now everything makes sense, but I don't understand what's going on. Everything makes sense, and nothing confuses me in this moment. But when I start to think about things like disease, human life, like the things that are going on in the human body, like the cells and genes, things like that, I get like confused. But if I don't think about that, I'm just experiencing this, and to me everything that is happening right now is making sense, perfect sense to me, and I understand everything that is going on. But yeah, I guess you understand the point. Like, I think the question is like, is there actually someone that understands like the whole picture, that doesn't get confused? I guess not one. Because I always thought like those authority figures, like the teachers and blah blah blah, and like all adults understood what was going on here, like in this reality. But I guess no one understands. I don't like even Buddha or people like those kind of spiritual figures that people look up to, Socrates, Plato, those kind of like great thinkers. If they were even real people and not just like metaphors or something, I wouldn't like trust that they have the answer to anything, because as I said, like they were like, could have been just like metaphors, or you know, like you don't know anything about it. So in a sense, I don't care a damn about what Buddha said or Socrates or blah blah blah. You have to be your own like philosopher. You have to see with your own eyes, experience what is going on, and then come to your own like conclusions about it. Because if you don't, you're always viewing the world through someone else's eyes, and obviously I don't think if there is a right or wrong way to live, that is the right way to live, because then are you really living at all? You're just following someone else's kind of life. philosophy. Always create your own philosophy. Always look at the world with curiosity, and don't become like rigid. Even if there's something that you know, like reading, maybe there's a completely other, like, maybe you can invent your own style of reading. Like, I don't know, like you can invent like some mathematic equations that produce words, or like, I'm just thinking about it like this, like, can you reinvent something that has already been done? People say don't reinvent the wheel because the wheel has already been done, but you could reinvent it. Like, another thing is like these systems that are made, it didn't register me before that, like, before these things were made, that people didn't know how to do it. Like reading, it just seemed like an obvious thing to me because I had been taught how to read by a very early age. So it never registered to me that before someone figured that out, how to make reading, that no one knew how to do it. So, and I'm just thinking about it like this, like, people say this society is so advanced and blah blah blah, but what is the like chance that we have figured out everything that there is to like invent or figure out? Because I guarantee that there's some like huge invention that in another like timeline, or if you believe that, but in another like history or something would have been invented that would have like changed the whole world, but no one thought about it in this like reality, or no one just thought about it, and that is why it didn't work. So that is why you have to always, like, my advice is to reinvent the wheel, obviously, because maybe there's a better way to make it, that people just didn't think about it because they had accepted this idea of don't reinvent something that has already been done, don't fix what isn't broken. But how do you know if it's not broken? Or how do you know if it's not like there's another better version of it? With everything, is like, think about it through your own own lens, and try to, I wouldn't say like, I'm not of those kind of, I don't believe that progress is like a very good thing in life, or like in society, or blah blah. Progress is like, has led us to where we are now, and some people say that this society is very bad. I don't know. This is the only one society that I've been living in. I don't know any other forms of it. So maybe some people say that we have gone backwards in like progress because we try to progress so much that we forget our roots. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm just talking about through your own like personal life. I'm not talking about like try to invent some society as a like new invention. I'm just talking about try to think about it like through your own like senses, and if there's something that could help you with your journey, like, I don't know, you invent some new writing system or like some new thing like that, because then it helps you understand like these abstract things, then maybe that is something that you should do. I think there should be something like some kind of rules to how you live, because if you just live it like this, like nothing makes sense, and like this kind of absurdism, or absurd, like if you view that nothing makes sense and you do nothing, okay, it's kind of like the same thing as what it reminds me of is that when there's people that say like, I don't care about life, and then some guy says, okay, I'm gonna cut off your leg, goodbye, and then the guy says, no, I don't want to lose my leg. Okay, so that does mean something to you then, because you are scared to lose it. So don't go into this mindset of being like nothing matters, because if you wouldn't have your head chopped off this moment, then I guess something matters to you, and that is yourself and your health. So there is some meaning to life, at least in that way. But in this moment everything makes sense to me, but when I try to explain it to you, or these abstract things, it doesn't make any sense, and I'm not able to explain it because I don't know if it's even meant to be explained. Yeah.